Welcome back to the Biblically Inspired Life. Recently, I was looking at my calendar and realized that September is right around the corner. And September 11th at sundown begins Rosh Hashanah, the first of the biblical holidays. And I thought this is a good time for us to think about ways that we can improve our spiritual walk and our Bible study time. Years ago, I was thinking about the same thing, and I was discussing it with Baruch, and he discussed the option of me doing a master's degree in biblical studies, which I ended up doing. And I'm going to show you a video of my thesis for my master's degree, which was on a comparison of the biblical Messiah and the Jewish Messiah as he is portrayed within Judaism today. But you don't have to go through that much, but I would just like to suggest one of the things that is discussed a lot on the internet right now, and that is developing a personal curriculum. This gives you an opportunity in a structured way to study some of the questions or things that you are interested in. For example, when we travel around, we find that many people ask questions which show they're confused about the differences between the second coming of the Lord and the rapture. So this is something, people might want to study both of those in depth and compare, contrast, see what is going to be going on in the world at each of those times and so forth. Another thing which Baruch has taught about is the difference between atonement and redemption. Or maybe there is a particular book of the Bible that you're very interested in and want to do a deep study of. So all of these things are possibilities for just creating a module of study that you can do in an organized way, and at the end of it feel that you've accomplished something and have a better grasp of the topic. So first you need to do is, the first thing is you need to decide what topic you want to study. And I just gave you a few options, but maybe, something immediately comes to your mind which has been going around in your head and you'd like to study further. I think it's good not to pick too broad of a topic because then you're going to be studying it on the surface level. If you kind of narrow it down to something specific, you can dig really deeply and learn more about it. So first thing I would suggest that you do is maybe write a short explanation of why you want to study this topic. Is this something you're personally interested in? Is this something that you feel is kind of controversial or misunderstood amongst your friend group, and you want to be able to discuss that in a educated way? So you need to reflect on exactly what is prodding you to study this particular topic. And then it's good to discuss the learning objectives that you have, maybe where the topic is in the Bible, how this impacts either the future or how it was relevant in the past, just all of the different things which you feel that you need to list out. So it's very good to make a list of all of these things. And it's also good to have goals. What is your goal for this course of study that you're doing? Next, you want to make sure that you have the proper supplies that you need. One of the things I'm going to show you is a copy of the Interlinear Bible. Now, this is not one that you find, online. This is one that you can order through Amazon or Christian book distributors or something like that. And this one is an accurate one. The ones that you find online are usually tied to a specific translation of the Bible, and it's not the same. So this book is one that is more accurate. You'll also want to have a notebook to keep track of all of your thoughts and things that you're learning, and make sure that you have a folder for any additional resources that you have. And that's where I want to discuss next is the resources that you use. It's very important that you use accurate resources. I've been studying about AI, and it is not always accurate. And I would say within the believing community, within the biblical aspects, that can be especially true. So you want to be sure that your resources are accurate. Have a good study Bible. If you're studying in English, we recommend maybe the New King James. It uses the Textus Receptus, not the Nestle Aland, so that is a better translation. You want to be sure that you have something like Strong's Concordance. Again, Strong's Concordance is more accurate when it is in the book form. For some reason, it seems when some of the resources have gone from a book form to on the internet, they're not always the same accuracy level. Another thing you want to be very careful of is possible bias of your resources. So if you're studying something and someone comes from a Calvinistic standpoint or a strong pre-trib or some of these types of things, you need to keep that into consideration when you're doing your studies. And you have to ask yourself and actually look to see if they have some sort of agenda, some sort of bias that they are trying to put forth. The next step is to create a routine. Now, people have different study habits. Some people need to study at the same time every day. It's best for them to set aside a specific time. Some people also need to have maybe a particular place, a little nook in their home that they'll go to study in. So keep this in mind when you're planning out your study time. Also, be sure to make it manageable. Don't bite off more than you can chew, especially when you're first starting out. You go from no studying to I'm going to study 3 hours a day. That just might not be practical. So you need to look at your schedule, look at yourself better and what your attention span is, so that can help you to decide what your study time will be at any particular time. And make sure to break your goals into smaller goals. So let's say that you have a particular goal that you want to learn for the week, that you want to go through. Maybe you could divide up into 3 days during the week that you're going to study, and you can set these smaller milestones to help you reach each of those. And you want to keep some personal deadlines. So keep yourself on track. Otherwise, it's going to expand into something that is much broader and longer than you've scheduled. And you want to have this be, contained into a relatively short amount of time. And so then you can go on to your next topic of study. Another thing you might want to do is consider how you can keep track of your goals and how you can summarize what you learn. A good action is to have a weekly report for yourself where you can summarize and organize the material that you learn in a way that you can refer back to more often. And finally, in the end, I think it's really nice to set an assessment for yourself. Now, in the same way that I wrote a 60-page thesis for my master's, you can write a 2 to 3 page summary and report on what you learned, just to help solidify and help you verbalize the information that you learned. You know, sometimes we understand the information as it's going in, but then when we're trying to perhaps share it with others, it gets confusing or difficult to share it. So writing it down in a nice, organized way is a great way to complete your curriculum study. Now, another way that you can improve your study time is what I've seen several people doing, and that is where they're writing scripture, or I would like to say they're copying scripture. They're not, you know, creating scripture, they're copying it. And I would suggest that that is actually a really good thing to do. The reason is you are involving more than one of your learning methods in it. So you'll have the physical writing of it and the reading of it, and this helps reinforce the scripture in your mind and in your memory. Another benefit is that you're in the Word, and you're doing it in an organized way. So again, you're not each day picking up and just reading here, reading there. You're going methodically through books of the Bible. Another thing is that you are making your brain actually work harder. So it's good for our brains, it's good for our hearts, our minds, and it's all around a good thing. Again, for this, you'll want to set a specific time, a specific amount of time, a place. And one thing that's really important is to select the paper that you use. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I was reading that some people like a 3-ring binder to keep it all together, and the loose sheets of paper are easy to write on. A bound book might look pretty, but it's very hard to press it down and write in it, and it can be tiring to do that. And a spiral notebook is nice because it keeps the papers in order and all in one place. So that's one thing you want to look at. And another is, of course, whatever writing instrument you use, pens. They're, you know, like for me, a felt tip or a gel pen. My handwriting is so bad with those, so I always use a ballpoint pen to write. That's the only way I can write legibly. And then you need to decide finally about if you happen to make a mistake, do you cross it out? Do you write over it? Do you rewrite it? Just all of those things together to put together a plan that works for you is really important. But, you know, one of the things I want to say is that to have your personal study time and have these goals really helps to keep you organized, helps to keep you orderly, helps you to manage your time, and it also helps you to achieve goals which will be useful not only in your own life, but also in other people's lives. It will give you a great opening to tell people what you've been doing, what you've been studying, what you've been learning. And hopefully it will encourage other people to put together maybe a personal curriculum for themselves to study particular topics. I know for me, with my thesis and my study of the biblical Messiah versus the Messiah presented in Judaism, it was very important for me just to organize my thoughts and my scripture so that as I encounter people here in Israel, that I have a better understanding of where they are coming from and how to counteract that with the truth of who Messiah is and what he's done for us. So I would just encourage you again, as these fall holidays approach, that you consider learning some particular topics, creating small curriculums that you can easily complete, maybe a month-long course at a time, and organize it, and I'm sure that it will be a blessing to you. Thanks for joining me today. I have coming up after this a recipe for pumpkin bread. It's one of Baruch's favorites, and it is definitely a fall dessert type recipe. So I hope that you enjoy it, and I look forward to putting together another video very soon. God bless you, and thanks for joining me today. Hi, welcome to the cooking portion of the show. Today, as I said, we have a recipe for fall. It's my favorite time of year. You can see from my candle, it's called Fall Day, so I'm ready to celebrate the time of year. And I'm hoping that over the course of the next month or two, that we'll have some videos concerning the biblical fall holidays, how we can celebrate, and just a little bit more about what they're about. But today we're going to make one of Baruch's favorite desserts, and that is pumpkin bread. It's very simple. For me, it's a little bit more difficult because I don't have the pumpkin puree here in Israel. I haven't looked a lot for it, but I haven't found it. So I do bring it back from the States. I have some here. It's not expensive, so you should be able to make this recipe on a budget as well. So we're going to start with 1 3/4 cup flour, which I've put in here already. And then we're going to use baking soda and baking powder, which I have both. Now, baking soda in Israel is not in the boxes or cans like you have in America. It's in a little packet like this. So we have our baking soda, and we use just 1 teaspoon. So I'll add that in. Let's get that there. 1 teaspoon of that, followed by a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Now this, like I said, it's very easy to make this recipe. It's pretty foolproof. I'm not a pro at all, and so for me to be able to make things shows that it's pretty simple. We follow that with 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So we have the 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and we're putting in a 1/2 teaspoon of the baking powder. So once we get those in, those are the little ones that we put in. And then we're going to put in 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And if you like cinnamon, this is going to be something that is going to really taste good for you. It's got the nice fall taste and a lot of cinnamon. It tastes great. Okay, then we put in the pumpkin puree. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, and 1 1/4 cups of sugar. So I have my sugar here, and I'm going to put in 1 1/4 cups. That's 1. Now I have to go get another quarter. Okay, so I added the other 1/4 cup of sugar, and now we're mixing this up. There's a couple more ingredients to add, but before it gets all in here, I'm going to try to mix this together a little bit. Okay, now we're ready for 2/3 of a cup of cooking oil, or vegetable oil, I'll say, vegetable oil, and 2 eggs. So this is going to give us the liquid that we need to make the batter for this. And then the final ingredient is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So there we go. Okay, now let's just mix this up together well so that we can have it nice and smooth. Now this is a recipe, as I said, it's simple, it tastes great. You can put powdered sugar on top, you can put a cream cheese icing, you could add some nuts to it, maybe like pecans either in it or as like a topping, pecans with cinnamon sugar or something like that. So it's very versatile. You could make it into cupcakes also as well. That would be delicious. But we're just going to mix this up well. As I said, going forward, I would like to have a couple of videos coming up for the fall holidays. We have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Shemini Atzeret. So just, you know, a review. It's always nice every year to study the various holidays as they approach, just to refresh our memories. Sometimes there's some aspects of it that we don't remember, that, you know, this way we can get a better understanding of it again, and then we can study a little bit about some of the traditional foods or some of the traditions that we kind of do that are not maybe necessarily in the Bible, but they're not contrary to biblical truth. So these are some of the things I'd like to do in the next couple of months. And see, you know, if we can all celebrate a little bit more this year. Okay, I have the batter done. As you can see, it's nice and smooth and uniform. So I'm going to put it into a loaf pan. Now, I know a lot of people, they use like a nonstick spray or they butter it or whatever. I never have a problem with this one sticking. So I'm just sticking it in, putting it in here as it is, and then we'll plop it in the oven. The temperature for the baking is 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll put the Celsius down below. I think it's around 190, 175, something in that range. Okay, so now I'm just smoothing this down to make it uniform. And then I'm going to put it in the oven for 1 hour. Okay, so when I come back, I'll show it to you and we'll see how it turns out. Okay. Well, the bread is done. I've brought it out just to give you a look. Let me get my oven mitt here. It's still quite hot, but so it looks like this. Looks very good. I will say I did not have regular white flour. I only had whole wheat flour at home right now. So this might taste slightly different, and yours might end up being a little bit of a different color. It might be a little bit of a lighter and more orange color. But anyway, this is what it looks like. As I said, it's really good with like a cream cheese icing, maybe a little powdered sugar or something like that. But I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to being with you again soon, where we can learn more about the fall holidays. God bless you.